Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series, the edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitiesdownfall. More information in the description. Your Words Destroyed My Planet, Chapter 1. 2020 fucking sucked. This is both a true fact and a statement that managed to be less controversial than water is wet. As 2020 drew to a close, records of social media show that people were making predictions of what 2021 might bring. Because surely anything to top 2020 would have to be extreme. All of this, of course, was done in jest, a mutual way of relieving stress through humor. As the next year rolled in, things continued more or less as they were, and of course everyone on Earth had a lot to deal with, so it took a little time to notice. Though if you consult old star charts and data from various space agencies, the earliest date that any of this could have been picked up was the 1st of January, 2021. On that date, Gliese 876d, a super-Earth exoplanet orbiting a red dwarf star 15 light-years away from Earth, should have passed by its sun. The planet itself had been discovered in 2005, and the majority of what could be discovered about the planet at the current level of technology had already been discovered. As such, Gliese 876d was not being closely watched, and it took what astrophysicists would grudgingly admit to being way too fucking long to realize that Gliese 876d had not, in fact, passed before its star. The moment this was discovered, many investigations were held. Was this a malfunction of equipment, interference from something else, or perhaps a data error? Scientific agencies across the world quietly talked to each other, and none of them had seen Gliese 876d cross its star. Planets don't simply evaporate for no reason, and the orbit of this particular super-Earth was perfectly stable. There was no debris field to suggest that something had come and obliterated it. It was simply gone. The star in question had 4 planets to its name, and Gliese 876c had a blessedly short trip around about Gliese 876 itself. Its year was a mere 30 days long. Scientists waited with interest, and waited, and waited. The day that Gliese 876c should have crossed its star and been observable came and went without it ever being observed. The planets were going missing. The news was met with confusion and horror from the general public. Also, because people are people, with memes. Shit, here I felt bad for losing my blank. NASA lost a whole damn planet. That sort of thing. More and more stars were surveyed, and more planets designated missing. It revealed 2 key pieces of information. Firstly, that planets were going missing. No destruction or rubble remains. They are simply gone. Secondly, whatever was causing this was coming closer. At the rate this phenomenon was moving, Earth had 15 years before it too would be gone. It was widely agreed upon that 2020 could get fucked, but 2021 deserved to be taken out back and shot. Earth, however, was not the only planet facing this crisis. And while Earth was struggling to suddenly invent feasible space travel for as many people as possible, another species already had that covered. Unfortunately, trolls as a species have been spacefaring for a great deal of time and are very confident about knowing how space works, and thus devote little to no energy into scientifically investigating it. The first the trolls hear about the force that erases planets is one very puzzled report from a small, long-range ship scouting for resources. The report stated that planets that should be there weren't, and could the Empire please advise. Said report was disregarded, and it took many months and several disciplinary complaints before it became apparent that the ship was no more either. More important people in the Alternian military put the disappearance of that first ship down to helmsman error or perhaps space debris colliding with the ship. A quarter sweep later, another ship made a similar report, and this ship vanished mid-call to the fleet to which it belonged. The troll species finally uncovered the same disappearance problems that the humans had, and hastily gathered their young from Alternia, along with the mother grubs and all that entails. Several sweeps after the evacuation, Alternia vanishes, and the trolls, now forced to be entirely nomadic, set themselves to the task of running from whatever force is sweeping the universe. There are plenty of stories about how humans pulled together, changed their societal structure to be able to produce enough ships to launch everyone into space. There are plenty of notable tales there, including a billionaire's private ship, packed with other hyper-wealthy individuals, which crashed into a car in space and promptly exploded. There are also plenty of papers, movies, and books about how the two species met, how they were able to communicate as humans broadcast their words into space. It might be fascinating to look at how the two species met, their cultures merging, languages changing, and both uniting to save themselves as they run from their encroaching end. But this isn't that story. This story begins several generations on from the date that humans left Earth, and it begins with a wedding. The story itself picks up in the year 2107. This would be a different number if people were still using Alternian sweeps and perigees, but no one does. That numbering system was one of the first casualties of the human-troll hybrid culture, and lingers only anachronistically in language. Specifically, our story begins on one particular ship soaring through space, avoiding the wave of destruction. But even more specifically than that, in an office piled up with computer parts. We could even narrow this down to one person in particular. Your name is Solux Captor, and you are done with people. This is nothing new, not for you personally, or even new for you today. You lean over the opened-up housetop and grimace. It doesn't look good, to say the least. Solux? No, you say back immediately, as you dig in your drawer for a screwdriver. But I didn't even ask you anything yet, your coworker whines. I know that tone of voice. You want something, so no, you tell him. Ah, a screwdriver. Nope, wait, wrong head. You toss it back in your drawer and rummage again. The sound of slightly squeaky wheels from Hal's computer chair fills the air as he scoots over to you. He leans back on his chair and gives you an overdramatically sad look. You didn't even listen to what I wanted, he pouts. So you admit that you want something, you snort and locate your screwdriver finally. All right, you got me. I wanted to ask you something, but it's important, and I'm not trying to palm work off onto you, Hal says, holding up his hands in surrender. You eye him suspiciously and start unscrewing one corner of the housetop you have in front of you. You have to put a little pressure on it. The battery inside the case has popped and expanded so much that it burst one corner of the case open, so getting the rest open without breaking anything is tough. Here's the thing. I wanted to ask you something important. Will you be my date? Hal asks. Your screwdriver skids clean off the screw in your shock, and as you stare at Hal, the whole screw pops out and pings off of a wall behind you somewhere. Yeesh, that looks bad, Hal remarks casually and leans over to eye the inside of the housetop. Forget the housetop, Hal, you know I'm Aradia's mate spirit, and I can't think you're propositioning me in any other quadrant. You've never been anything close to pale with me. I don't have a kismesis for you to middle leave for, and we don't hate each other, so what the fuck? You say in a rush. Hal leans his elbow on your desk and grins at you, all sly and conniving. Ah, see, I don't have your agreement, but I do have your attention, he all but purrs. I'm going to stab you with this screwdriver, you warn him. Okay, let me start at the beginning now that I know you're listening to me. You know how Dirk's getting married, next week? Hal says, a little more seriously. Yeah, you frown. You don't really know Dirk, but you've met him in passing before when the other Striders have been around. Right, well, so it's about the guest list, you see, or the groom's party, whatever. Point is, Roxy's got Sarava as her date, Rose is taking Kanaya, Dave's bringing Jade, well, she'd be there anyway, because she's Jake's sister, so of course she's there. Then June's got Terezi as her +1, and Jane's taking Branya, Hal lists off. And that has anything to do with me, how? You ask. Well, Listen, I might have said that I have a +1 to bring and said that I was dating someone too, and I don't have a date still, and... Would you be my date? Hal asks hopefully. So you're asking me so it's a symmetry thing when everyone's lined up? If you just needed a friend to go with you, then you should have opened with that instead of being audio clickbait. You grumble and move back to the housetop. Yeah, about that. I definitely said it was a romantic thing, and I'd need you to pretend like it was, Hal says with a wince. I've been with Aradia since I was 13. You think I'm gonna toss almost 10 years of happy and stable matespership down the load gaper for your flat ass? You scoff and go back to unscrewing the husk top. Hal sighs and fidgets in his chair for a moment before talking again, his voice a little quieter. Look, man, I don't actually want to date you. We're friends, and no offense, but I'm just not into you like that, even though you're the only person who works in this department that I can stand, but... Hal hesitates and stalls for time by tidying up your desk a little until you whack him on the knuckles with your screwdriver. I've never dated anyone. I used to like Jake too. Not that I still do or anything, but all the others have someone to bring. They're all happy and in love or whatever, and it's just a big deal, and I didn't want to go all by myself. Just pretend to be dating me for one evening. I'm not actually trying to get between you and Aradia. I swear. I just don't want... Hal trails off into silence. You take the final screw out and sigh. When you look over at Hal, he seems genuinely despondent. He really is more than just a work friend. It started that way, but you do like him. He puts up with your shit when you're acting like a complete asshole, and he can give as good as he gets. He's the only other genuinely competent person that you work with, and he doesn't feel the need to chatter constantly, which means you can both focus, and when you do talk, it's because you want to. You play games together sometimes, grab dinner after work occasionally. It's nice. You don't want to date him, though. I get why you don't want to go alone, but no, you say kindly but firmly. I thought you might say that, Hal says with a deep breath and shifts to take something out of his back pocket. You watch as Hal slides a small handmade book across your desk. It's a little smaller than palm size and clearly stapled together in the middle. On the front, in clear letters, reads, I owe you. Out of sheer morbid curiosity, you open the book and feel your eyebrows raise as you start to read the slips inside. Hal Strider will tell whatever lie Solix Captor wants to the higher-ups. Hal Strider will cover one holiday shift for Solix Captor. Hal Strider will deal with any face-to-face clients for a month. Hal Strider will admit that Solix Captor won that game of Mortal Kombat 21 Devastation, and that Hal Strider was using cheaty bullshit moves. Your eyebrows raise at that one. That's been a point of contention for over a year, and both of you have insisted that you were the real winner. This isn't just an extensive book of favors. This is offering up actual emotional humiliation. That's big. Aradia would probably think the whole situation was funny, and she probably wouldn't mind. Neither of you has ever been concerned about the other one cheating. You're just not like that. I wouldn't cheat on Aradia, you point out. I said, I'm not asking you to. Don't want you to either, Hal insists. No, what I mean is, no one else is going to believe that I would either. So there's no point asking me as a romantic date. I'll go as your friend, but no one's going to buy that I'd cheat on AA by showing up to a public event with you as your date. You explain. I know, but they need to buy it. You can just say that you broke up, that we just started dating, and then afterwards you can say it didn't work out because neither of us are really into each other and you got back with Aradia, like I was your rebound or something, Hal says desperately. Literally no one would buy that, you tell him flatly. So lie convincingly! Solix, I'm literally begging you here. Please, I really, really don't want to show up alone. I don't care if you think it's stupid, but it really matters to me. Please, please, Hal begs, literally begs, with his hands clasped together and everything. You look at your friend's desperate expression, and then at the book of IOUs. Aradia would probably think this whole thing is funny as hell. Alright, I'll lie, but I'm telling you, no one's gonna buy it, you say with a shrug, and cover the book of IOUs with your hand so he can't take it back. As long as you try, then the rest is my problem. Shit, thank you so much. I owe you so bad, Hal says in relief. You absolutely do. Now, you pause and rip one IOU out in particular and flick it at his face. Admit you lost. Hal's face twists and you can see him grinding his teeth for a moment before he grits the words out. I absolutely lost that Mortal Kombat game. My moves were cheap little bitch moves and you're the better player and won fair and square. It really looks like it hurts to say, and you love it. Oh, this is gonna be good, you snicker and put the book back in your pocket so you can look through it properly later. Hal grumbles and squeaks his way back to his side of the room on his badly maintained chair, but he thanks you all the same on the way. When your shift finally ends, you make a detour down to the nearest retail area and pick up a few things. Shower gel, instant coffee, that kind of thing. You share an app with Aradia for anything you need to get for your hive, and check them off. Since she doesn't seem to have added anything to it, you take the train back to your residential block. The train is mostly full of people on the same shift as you heading back to their own hives, but there are a few people from earlier shifts who are clearly going to dinner, kids on the way back from school. It's not so packed on the train that you have to stand, but you've been sitting down all day, so it's good to have a change. You tap your hand to the scanner outside of your hive, and the door opens. "Hey, I'm home," you call out as you step inside. You hang your jacket on the hook by the door, and then spot that you've got sauce on it somehow, so grudgingly you take it off again and toss it towards your open respite block door. You peer around the corner and see that your desk is empty, and Aradia isn't on the sofa with her husktop, and you can't hear the shower going either. "Aradia?" you call once more, and pull the instant coffee from your bag and toss it on the side by your mini fridge and sink. Going into your respite block, you find that she's not there either. Not that it's hard to look, since the block is big enough for your double bed, one nightstand, and has just enough room to move around and still hit your shins on the bed every time. The ablution block is likewise empty. She must not be home yet. You shrug and sit at your desk. You shoot Karkat a message, but it auto-responds that he's on shift right now, so you won't hold your breath on a speedy reply. With nothing better to do, you boot up the latest game that you fixated on and kill most of your night with that. When it becomes clear that Aradia won't be home for dinner, you order in for yourself, then eat it, and still kick ass at your game at the same time. Aradia wakes you when she finally climbs into bed. She gives you some quiet apology about where she was, but you're too tired to hear it, and so you just pull her closer to curl up around your back and go back to sleep. You only remember to tell her about the Hal thing when you're on the train to work the next morning. Shit. Well, this isn't really a conversation you want to have over Trollian, so you'll just talk to her next time. The next time is another night when her work overruns. The time after that, you and Hal are on lates for 3 days in a row, so whenever you get home, Aradia's asleep. It just keeps happening that you're never both awake or awake enough to have the conversation, and it's only on the day of the wedding that you realize you never told her about what's happening. You're partway through buttoning up your one nice white shirt when that particular realization hits. You curse at yourself, but even though this is a dumb as shit favor, you can't bail on Hal an hour before you're meant to be there. You're just gonna have to leave her a message. With that decided, you hurriedly put on your shoes, straighten up your tie, and grab your jacket. You've only got the one suit, the one you got for Aradia's graduation. Her graduation for her degree, that is, not the high school graduation you both had at the same time. It still fits, and it's fancy enough for a wedding. Hal had told you that you didn't have to go all out, but a regular suit would be fine. You check yourself over in the mirror, brush your hair one last time, and hurry out to catch the train. When you're finally sat down on the train, you shoot Aradia the message that you need to send her. Hey, kind of dumb situation that I'm in right now. I agreed to be Hal's date for his brother's wedding, but he didn't want anyone to know that we weren't just friends. I told him no one would buy it because we're together, but he said to lie anyway. I was going to tell you sooner, but I kept missing you. Tell you all about it later. You hit send just before the train whooshes out of a tunnel, and you realize that your stop is coming up soon. You flick your palm husk onto Do Not Disturb and shove it in your pocket. You have no desire to be one of those people at a wedding constantly taking pictures when there are other people paid for that. Besides, you don't massively care that Dirk is getting married. You're just here because Hal owes you. At the next station, you step out and head out towards the ship's central park. It's super pricey to rent out any part of this place for an actual event, but you guess that Jake being the captain's grandson probably helps with that. You tip your head back as you walk through the park and enjoy the artificial sunshine from above. It's not hard to spot the white tent across the park, and it's a nice walk over anyway. A small temporary fence surrounds the wedding's blocked-off area, and when you follow it around to the entrance, you find 2 burly guards in suits standing there. "Invitation?" one asks. "I, don't have one, but I'm Hal's +1. He told me to come, so..." You hesitate. "No invitation, no entrance." The second guard growls at you, flashing his fangs as he talks. You're halfway to pulling out your palm husk when Hal's voice cuts over. "He's with me! Let him in!" Hal shouts. Looking around the mountain of a troll in front of you, sure enough, there's Hal and Dave carrying a large table between them, although it seems to be giving Hal more trouble than Dave. The 2 trolls guarding the entrance step aside and let you in. "You made it. Hal sighs in relief. I did. Do you want me to carry that or something? You offer, letting your offered hand crackle with sigh. Ugh, please. Hal nods, so you lift it gently out of their hands. I'll grab the centerpieces before Dirk flips 8 kinds of shit. Meet you out back, Dave says quickly and rushes off again. Everything okay? You ask. It's a wedding, so no. Last minute changes to ship. There's apparently too many tables in there for when the ceremony happens, so we're moving them outside, and then we've got to put centerpieces and drinks on them for the other guests when they get here, which should be now, so come on, let me show you where it goes, Hal says in a rush, and drags you off around the back of the tent. With Hal's direction, you set the table where it needs to go, and help hurriedly ferrying things back and forth. You have help, though. It turns out that Sarava is here, too. They work in electrical engineering, so you have some contact with them through work. You get people's stupid IT problems, but sometimes their problems are because something has gone awry in their area of the ship, and Sarava, although wildly unmotivated, does actually do a good job when they do work, and you're on decent terms. Also, it turns out that they're dating Hal's sister Roxy, which you didn't know. Or maybe you have been told, but just cared so little that you didn't remember. That's happened before. When did that happen? You ask curiously, as a distant Hal drags a table around the corner and indicates that you should pick it up. A couple of years ago. We get high and play video games together. Also, I set up her whole streaming deal. It's nice. Chill. Sarava nods lazily. Huh. I didn't know. Cool. You nod. It's funny. You don't really know Hal's siblings all that well. You know the ones that are your age better. Dave, Rose, and June. But the ones that are Hal's age, not so much. You know of them, obviously, and you've seen them at plenty of social things where the Striders and Egberts are present, but it's not like you hang out with them. It's a big ship, after all. Holy shit, the rarest thing just happened, Dave says, pausing at your side while holding 2 glass vases. I saw Karkat coming before I heard him. No way, you snort. You and Dave have never hung out together all that much, but you do share a mutual appreciation for irritating Karkat, and you honestly respect that in a guy. Dave snickers and hurries off. You're here with Hal, though, right? Didn't know he was seeing you. Roxy would have talked my sponge clots off about it, I'd have thought, Sarava says with a raised eyebrow. Right. The lie. Oh, yeah, well, it's new. We're dating. You lie. Sarava looks at you and then nods vaguely. One thing you've always liked about them is that they don't ask too many questions. Cool, is all they say. Karkat walks around the edge of the tent, and Sarava suddenly finds other places to be, which is dumb. It's not as if Karkat's uptight about any of the illicit substances that Sarava might mention, but you guess they don't know Karkat so well. They can just see his job from the symbols on his tie. Solix, hey, what are you doing here? Karkat asks you as he walks over. I'm the blood sacrifice that they do at human weddings. They're gonna cut me open on one of these tables, you explain, and gesture to the tables behind you. Shit, really? Gamzee asks lazily as he catches up to Karkat and leans over him, wrapping his arms around Karkat's shoulders and resting his chin between Karkat's nubby horns. You meet Gamzee's gaze, and the same look passes between the two of you as it has done thousands of times before. You don't like him, and he doesn't like you. He thinks you want to steal Karkat from him, and you think he doesn't deserve Karkat. No, not really. Humans don't do blood sacrifices, Karkat says, oblivious to the frosty air between you and Gamzee. That's what you think, a voice interrupts you. You don't know what we've got up our sleeves, another adds. Gamzee shifts out of the way, revealing Jane and Rose with sneaky expressions on their faces. You sense trouble. There's no blood sacrifices, Karkat insists. We'll see. So, Solix, my dearest older brother, informed us that you're his date for this most wondrous event, Rose purrs. Yeah, I didn't know you were invited. I know you work with Hal, but still. Karkat chips in and looks at you curiously. He said it was a romantic date, Jane adds with a sly expression. Karkat's eyes nearly bug out, and you know what's coming, and what's worse is that Hal had been quite specific about this. You're Hal's Moirail now? The fuck? You never told me! Karkat shouts. I'm not. It's red, you say. Everyone around you suddenly and loudly says some variation of, Wait, what? Bullshit! Or what about Aradia? So it all gets jumbled up. We broke up, but now me and Hal are together. Eli. Not in a million years. That's the least convincing lie I've ever heard, Rose says flatly. No way you'd just break up with Aradia and be fine with it, or be broken up with and be okay at all. I'd have heard everything about it, and you'd be a mess from that breakup. There's no way in the universe that the two of you split up silently as anything, and you just start dating someone else, and this is the first I hear of it. No way. Karkat agrees, entirely correctly. You shrug, offering no further details. Why'd you two break up? Gamzee asks, his purple eyes sharp on you. None of your fucking business is why, you tell him sharply. Okay, let's say that we buy this, which I think we're all united in not buying this at all, yes? Okay, so assuming that it's none of our business why Aradia and Solix supposedly broke up, which we all think that they haven't, why are you dating my brother, Jane asks sweetly. Yes, do tell us what about Hal was so captivating to you that you had to date him. Rose agrees deviously. Well, this isn't so hard. You do like Hal, so you can embellish a little here. We work together. He's one of the only people that I work with that I haven't frequently fantasized about strangling with an Ethernet cord. He's smart, he's fun, and he doesn't endlessly yammer on about insignificant shit. I like him, you say with a shrug. How fantastically platonic sounding. You're friends, yeah, but you're not dating. Why would you lie about this? Is there an in-joke I'm not getting? Karkat frowns. Indeed. Dave, a moment, Rose says, snagging Dave as he walks past, carrying a tray of drinks. To his credit, he doesn't drop or spill any, and you're actually a little impressed by that. Seriously? Dave huffs in irritation, but nevertheless holds the tray out to all of you. You take the chance to snag a drink. It'll be helpful to have something to buy you a moment of silence if they ask you anything really hard, and something to cover your expressions a little bit. When was the last time that you saw Aradia? Rose asks Dave. Yesterday when we were doing drills. Why? Dave asks. Apparently, she and Solix are broken up. Did you know this? Did she seem upset when you saw her? Rose asks him, and Dave looks at you in wide-eyed shock. What? What? No, she was fine when I saw her. When did this happen? Dave gasps. You're not going to tell everyone you are cheating on Aradia with Hal, but you also need it to be recent, or else people will ask questions. You wish you knew how long it'd been since Hal started claiming he was seeing someone, but you oh so smartly didn't ask. You know, like a week ago? Wait, no, too soon. More like 2, actually. Closer to 2. Dave's black and red eyes narrow at you, and you know they're just cybernetic and they can't actually see right through you, but it doesn't feel that way. Hoof beast shit. I've seen Aradia loads since then. She's been fine. Girl might be cool, but she's not made of ice. She'd have told us if you two had broken up. You two have been together longer than me and Jade. No way, Dave says, and hands his now mostly empty tray off to Jane and pulls his palm husk out and starts typing. Shit. Here's hoping Aradia's up for playing along. There's no way, Karkat says in the silence. The more interesting question is why would Solix go with a lie this obvious, and why would Hal go along with it? Rose wonders, all while Dave keeps typing away and pausing, then typing. Hal didn't have a date before, and then he did. That mystery person, remember? Jane points out. This is a lot to go to for that, and why would Solix care enough to do this? Rose asks and eyes you. Dave shoves his palm husk away and looks at you suspiciously. What'd she say? Karkat asks, though clearly everyone wants to know, including you. That they sort of drifted apart and she guesses it's over, which I guess explains why she wasn't weird about it during work. Maybe? Dave says, clearly not fully bought into Aradia's clever lie. No way. Karkat growls and takes his own palm husk out. Maybe we should ask Hal about this, get more details, Jane suggests. We've kind of got a wedding to deal with, Dave reminds her. Oh, is Dirk in a fuss? Jane asks with a wince. Of course. Rox and Hal are trying with him, but, you know, plus Jade's calming Jake down. Everyone's freaking out. Dave sighs. I guess you blew it, Gamzee drawls, and you realize he's reading Karkat's palm husk as he leans over him. Karkat must be asking Aradia much the same thing as Dave was. Shut it, you snap. Karkat squints at you dubiously. You're pretty sure that he doesn't buy this at all, no matter what AA said. All the same, you find an excuse to slip away from the group and then get caught up helping different people. It's not hard to dodge people who know you well, so you can mostly escape scrutiny. You see Hal a fair few times, but he breathlessly promises you that as soon as you get to sit and have food, he can actually hang out with you. Until then, it seems like he's helping keep everything working. The wedding is interesting. You know that Hal's first language is Spanish, same with all the Striders, but you've almost never heard them speak it. You also know that Jake's first language is English, same as his grandmother. The language the two actually share is Alternian, so the whole ceremony is conducted in that. You're not sure what area this wedding is traditional to. You're not sure exactly where the Striders family is from ancestrally, and their adoptive Egbert family is Chinese, so you don't recall where the captain's family was from either, so it's all pretty fascinating for you. The vows are essentially making a binding legal agreement that this will be a permanent and exclusive matesbritship, and there's all sorts of talk about sticking together through adversity and such. Karkat cries, because of course he does. The two humans swap rings and kiss, then you all get to applaud. There's more drinks and photographs outside then. You can't help but notice that the only drinks you've managed to snag so far are non-alcoholic, but you've not got much time to look for anything else, as you're busy trying to avoid everyone as much as you can. When you were all outside being photographed, or in your case, avoiding Kanaya trying to corner you in a pincer movement with Branya, the event staff were turning the inside of the tent into a dining setup. When you're ushered inside, you find that there's a rectangular table on the far wall with 4 chairs at it, and the rest are small circular tables. Your table happens to be you and Hal, Rose and Kanaya, Karkat and Gamzee, and lastly Jane and Branya. You know, 4 couples. That's definitely what you and Hal are. You can avoid conversation for now, it seems, because you think that there are supposed to be speeches now. Waiters are passing out glasses of bubbly drinks, but you can tell that it's not alcoholic the moment you sniff it. How come none of the drinks have alcohol? You ask quietly. None of us drink. We didn't want alcohol at the wedding. Surely you'd know that if you were dating Hal, Rose says slyly. Oh, yeah, Rose, I love going out to bars all the time and definitely take Solix with me. I love that just as much as talking about our family's history with alcohol. It hasn't come up, thanks, Hal says before you can get a word out. You didn't know there was some issue with booze in their family, and Rose is right that if you were actually with Hal, that you probably would, but you guess Hal's just spinning that your thing with him is new. The captain of your whole ship, Jade English, stands up from her chair, and before you can even move, she talks over all of you. Let's have none of this everyone standing to attention nonsense tonight, or we'll all be up and down all night, she laughs, her voice a little thinner with age, but still full of life. She's legitimately the oldest human you've ever seen, but she's sharp as anything, and you're actually really proud for her to be the captain of your ship. At her command, you relax a little in your seat again, rather than standing as you would normally be expected to. I think it goes without saying that I've always been very fond of my grandchildren, but I try not to be blind to their flaws either. I know Jake has a good heart in him, he can be funny, and he's so smart. He's a real adventurer too, and genuinely cares about people. But I also know that he's not perfect. He can be tough to deal with at times. When he met Dirk and the two of them got together, I worried that they might not be the right fit, and it's not been perfect the whole time, but I've watched these 2 young men grow up together and grow as people. Dirk is also a lovely young man, industrious, smart, and sometimes a pain in the backside. The captain cackles, and now both Dirk and Jake are red-faced as they look up at her from her left. But, and this is the thing, loving someone isn't always about loving them at their best. It's easy to love the best version of someone. What you really want is when someone is at their most pig-headed stubborn, when they do the things that drive you nuts, when all that's going on, you can still look at them and love them. I've seen both of these young men go through that and grow, so I couldn't be more confident that the 2 of them are going to be happy together for a long time. So to both of you, congratulations, and to Dirk, I want to welcome you to the family. The captain raises her glass, and everyone around you does the same as you all join in her toast to the now very red-faced couple. When the applause dies down, Mr. Egbert stands up and smiles at the 2 grooms. Thank you so much for your kind words, Captain, and thank you to everyone for being here for this wonderful celebration. I can only echo your words about how wonderful our boys are and how good they are for each other. Jake is a charming young man, and he's grown immensely since the nervous young boy he was when I first met him. Mr. Egbert laughs. I wasn't that young or nervous, Jake protests with a laugh, though the look on Dirk's face makes you think he very much was. I am also very glad to have Jake as part of my family now. I must, however, apologize to the rest of our audience for this next part, Mr. Egbert says slowly, and then takes a breath. When he starts to speak again, he's not speaking Alternian. You think it's Spanish because it doesn't sound a thing like Chinese, and you know more than enough English to know it's not that. Hal gasps at your side, and Rose looks similarly stunned. At the head table, Dirk is staring up at his adoptive father with his mouth slightly open in shock. You turn to Karkat. He speaks Spanish and about 6 different other languages, too. Under your attention, Karkat jolts and starts translating. He's saying that he learned Spanish for this? That Dirk's grown so much from who he was when he adopted him, and that he's proud of who he is? He loves him, and he is and was... No, always will be family. Karkat translates slowly. You glance at Rose and Hal. There are black mascara-tinted tears sliding down Rose's face, and Hal looks misty-eyed as well. Basically, it's just about how much he loves his kids. Oh, he's talking about how adopting them was? Karkat goes on. Sure enough, the Striders all look incredibly overcome with emotion. Now he's saying how he couldn't be happier that Dirk has found someone to be happy with, that he's starting his own family, and yeah, Karkat says. He guess a lot of this emotional language is outside of what Karkat's learned. You know, either it's that or that Karkat seems too emotionally overwhelmed to translate between languages. I didn't know he was going to do that. I didn't know he was learning, Jean whispers. In conclusion, welcome to the family, Jake. We all love you dearly, Mr. Egbert says as he raises his glass in a toast. Mr. Egbert doesn't get to properly drink his toast, though, because Dirk has leapt up and grabbed him in a pretty intense hug. When he pulls back, it's clear that he's cried at least a little. You okay? You ask in a whisper as you nudge Hal's arm. Yeah. Fuck. Damn it, Dad always makes you feel things. We all just spoke Alternian because he didn't know Spanish, and... Hal sniffs a little and throws the rest of his drink back to cover it. He's not the only one moved. Rose is drying her eyes with Kanaya's black handkerchief. Karkat is, of course, crying again. After emotionally moving speeches, it's apparently time for food, and this part you've definitely been looking forward to, and you're not disappointed at all. Instead of set meals, it's served where each table has a rotating platter set up on it, which gets loaded high with dishes of all kinds. Given that there are lots of different human cuisines around, and a good number represented in the ethnicities of the ones on the head table, there's a lot of variety. Plus, human food has shifted somewhat Alternian over the years, especially since this ship is mostly troll-inhabited. The conversation around the table is pretty easy, and you lean in for Karkat to take a picture of you both, and you happily take Rose's palm husk for her to get a picture of her and Kanaya. In the room around you, in every direction, there's the happy sound of people chattering, laughing, and cutlery clinking. When dessert comes around, it's this gorgeous tropical fruit thing that you lack the vocabulary to describe. No one on the ship goes hungry. Whatever you do, your meals are provided for. You get to choose where and what you eat, though, but it's still within reason, and rare, pricey tropical earth fruit is well out of the range of standard food, and not something you've ever blown your personal money on, but you might have to reconsider that now that you've tasted it. Of course, with any wedding, there is dancing, and you're hardly the type to regularly dance, but the atmosphere of the whole event is so enjoyable that it's hard not to relax a little. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for coming along and everything, Hal says softly as he hands you a glass of something non-alcoholic, but very good nonetheless. It's cool. You owe me, remember? But it's actually a pretty fun night, so I'm not complaining. You smile and clink your glass to his. You look over the dance floor and see Jade leading Dave in some elaborate but probably made-up dance. Nothing like the graceful, coordinated steps of Rose and Kanaya. Well, good. This thing took so much planning, it better be good, Hal snorts. You smile into your glass, but catch movement out of the corner of your eye. You can just see Dirk and Jake walking towards you through the crowd. Don't look now, but newlyweds incoming, you murmur into your glass. You agreed to pretend for Hal, so you're going to do your best, at least. Giving him a heads up that you have potentially scrutinizing company coming up is the least you can do. Understanding flickers over Hal's face, and he starts talking like you were mid-conversation. I mean, I know it was a lot since this is all so new, but I'm really glad I got to take you to this, even if the timing was off, Hal says casually. Other people's opinions are their problem, you say, just as casually. Hello, you two. So good to see you, Jake says loudly and cheerfully as he walks up to you. You both look over like you hadn't seen them coming, and though Jake seems perfectly delighted to talk to you, it's pretty obvious that Dirk is carefully observing you and Hal. Congratulations, or whatever's the customary thing to say. I've not been to a wedding before, so I'm not sure, you say. Oh, well, thank you. We just wanted to come over and say thank you for coming, and thank you, of course, to Hal for how much work he put into this whole shebang. Jake beams. He's a lot broader than he looks to be at first. It's not like Equius, who has the decency to be tall and broad in a way you can't help but notice. No, Jake's body looks quite normal until you spot just how different the cut of his jacket is to yours, how his sleeves are wider to accommodate far stronger arms. His tie is pinned to his formal shirt underneath, and like yours, his has all his badges on. The crest of your ship is emblazoned on his tie pin, but below that, silver stars edge a circle, the indicator of all professions that require leaving the ship, and inside is a closed fist in front of the backdrop of a planet. He's a sailor, specifically a heavy core one. His rank and spoken languages are details below the main symbol, but you're not interested in that. It's funny, the only other person with his job that you know is Gamzee, which is precisely why he's been invited. He and Jake work together. When you think of the kind of people who have that job, Jake isn't really what you picture. It's not like you know the guy, but still, he doesn't seem like the type. Thanks for being cool with me bringing Solix. I know it was pretty late, but we were just talking about how you thought this was cool, right? Hal says, casting a glance your way. Definitely. I'm glad I could come along, you say, without having to lie. It's a nice party with a lot of your friends here. Well, we're very glad to have you. We're going to do the cake cutting thing in a little bit, but we wanted to make sure that we got around to everyone to say thank you for coming, just in case we miss you all later. Jake smiles warmly. Yup, definitely wanted to come around and say hi to the guy I've basically never spoken to, who literally no one believes is dating my brother, Dirk says, his eyes fixed right on you through his sunglasses. Hi, you say right back without blinking. Dirk, Jake hisses at him. Whoops, sorry, slip of the tongue. I meant, hi, nice you could be here, Dirk says, entirely insincerely, and smiles at you. Yeah, totally. I get those two mixed up all the time, you say flatly. Oh my god, Hal mutters. Dirk looks at Hal, and it's really jarring to see the mischievous expression you're used to seeing on Hal on someone else's face. Admittedly, it's an identical face, but still. I take it back. I like him, Dirk says with sly amusement in his tone. Yeah, me too. Don't you both have other family to annoy? Hal asks waspishly. Well, to do that, I'd have to catch Jade, and she's far too excitable for that right now. Jake sighs and looks over to the dance floor to see Jade dramatically dipping Dave in a dance. Dave might need rescue, though. Or photographs taken of his current situation. One of those, Dirk says slowly. Hal reaches around him quickly and snaps a photograph on his palm husk. Dirk has a look and quietly says, Nice. We really do have to go cut cake soon. Dad and Jane made it themselves. It's nuts, Dirk says. And you look over to the cake on the table across the room, which is at least half your height. It's pretty big. What kind of cake is it anyway? You ask curiously. All the flavors? Last I heard, each layer is something else, because Dad and Jane don't do easy, Hal answers before Dirk can get there. Of course not. One flavor? How pedestrian, Dirk deadpans in response. I've changed my mind. My condolences for signing up for this in stereo forever, you tell Jake with a pointed look at Hal and Dirk. Like you have, you mean? Dirk asks flatly. 1, you're married and it's not the same, and 2, hey, Hal says and shoves you at the end of that. Still, you fail to consider that they're all like that to one degree or another. I've been doomed for a long time, my friend. You'll be doomed with me. There's no escape, Jake says with a sage nod. You give Hal a look. You have to work with him all the time. Even though you're only pretending to be dating him, which you never actually would. You still like his presence. You're okay with being doomed with that much. Point taken? You nod. All right, come on. You said you wanted to thank Gamzee for coming, and I'd rather get that over with, Dirk says with a sigh. Oh, he's really not that bad, Jake tuts, but after a quick wave heads off towards Gamzee and Karkat. He definitely is, you mutter into your glass. Hey, you wanna dance? Hal asks a little cautiously. You are only here as his friend, but this is also a party, so fuck it, right? Yeah, sure, you nod and set your now empty glass down on the side. It's a party, so you'll party. You'd say that it's probably an objective fact that you're not good at dancing. On a technical skill level, you're almost certainly lacking. That being the case, though, there's a lot to be said about not giving a fuck. Specifically in your case, you know that you're not technically good at dancing, and you're not so naive to think that people don't notice your attempts at dance. Pretending, to the part of your brain that wants to be anxious, that people aren't watching never works. Instead, you accept that and figure that either they already know you and therefore don't care, or they don't know you and therefore you don't care. If you can't have confidence, apathy is fine. Rose decides that she wants to cut in at one point and dance with Hal. Or possibly interrogate him. Definitely interrogate him, actually. You're not so naive to think that Kanaya isn't doing the same with you. I spoke to Aradia, Kanaya says smoothly as she twirls you around. I bet, you sigh, but let her pull you back all the same. She didn't seem to want to talk about your breakup, which has me wondering if it was real or not. At first I assumed not, because I don't believe that you two would break up, and if you did, I don't believe that you would instantly date someone else and be their date to a wedding. It seems absurd, Kanaya says as she dances somewhat aimlessly with you. I guess you've got it all figured out then, you say simply, neither confirming nor denying. Kanaya's eyes narrow slightly as she stares into yours, but you're not going to give her anything. It is not as if shenanigans are outside the scope of your behavior. I do know you, after all. You might not be as inclined to utter chaos as Terezi used to be, but with the right motive, you're certainly inclined, Kanaya says slowly. You say nothing to that, so Kanaya just smiles and shrugs her shoulders a little, like she's conceding defeat for now. She's certainly not the only one interested in whether you and Aradia are still together or not. Karkat manages to corner you later, and you're thankful that it's just him. Gamzee is off with Jake, Dave, and other sailors that Jake invited. From the look on Dave's face, he's not thrilled that Gamzee is there either, but thankfully it's his problem right now and not yours. Alright, listen, if this is some weird bit or, I don't know, a bet with someone else, then that's fine. I swear I won't tell anyone, but not knowing is driving me crazy. Are you and Aradia broken up or not? Karkat asks, keeping his voice remarkably quiet. Karkat, don't worry about it. I know you worry about everything, but don't worry about it, you tell him gently. Karkat scowls up at you, all short irritation and a glare that still gets to you even though his thick eyebrows are as furrowed as can possibly be in both irritation and skepticism. No, because I am worried. Look, here's how I see it. Either you and Aradia aren't broken up and this is some weird joke or bet that I don't know about and you've got her to go along with it. That's possible, but I don't know why you'd do that. Not that I need to know or even need you to tell me why. I'm fully versed in your inscrutable fuckery, so if it's that, you only have to tell me and I'll just let it go and be puzzled by myself until whatever this is plays out. The second option is that you and Aradia really are broken up. That's terrifying, because I know you wouldn't be okay if that happened, so the fact that you're here looking like you're okay, he says, but you interrupt, means that you don't need to worry either way, so great, don't stress about it, you sigh. No, fuckface, listen. If you and Aradia broke up, you'd be in bits. You'd be a wreck, and if you weren't acting like that, it's because the trauma of losing her has made you snap, and this is some kind of post-breakup psychotic break, which I absolutely do need to know about. Karkat hisses at you. Shit, you hadn't thought that he could get himself this worried about you, but Karkat has no limits on what he'll freak out about. You should know that by now. I'm not having a mental breakdown. You don't need to worry. I'm telling you that I'm here as Hal's date, same as I'm telling everyone else, you say carefully. Karkat's eyes scan your face suspiciously for a few seconds, and then he nods slowly. Alright, so it's a bet or a joke or something, which would mean that you can't admit it because you do generally like keeping your word. Okay, fine. You're still a deeply frustrating person who drives me nuts, but I'm glad you're not losing your mind at least, Karkat says with the slow sigh of someone trying to remember to meditatively breathe or something. Good, you nod. Besides, if you lost your mind, it'd take ages to find it. It's so small, Karkat says slyly, giving you a sidelong look and a smug little grin. Asshole, you snort and elbow him. Want to dance? Karkat asks after a moment. I don't know, is your lesser half gonna rip my limbs off if I dance with you? You ask flatly and look in Gamzee's direction. I don't need my Moiral's permission for anything, much less to dance with my best friend, Karkat says, bristling at the accusation. The urge to ask Karkat if Gamzee knows that is pretty strong. Truth be told, it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't make Gamzee back off, and it just frustrates or upsets Karkat. You can't stand Gamzee. He's no good for Karkat, and he's an unstable asshole. Admittedly, you're an unstable asshole, but you're realistically only going to be a danger to yourself at your very worst, something you can't say for Gamzee. Gamzee hates you because he thinks that you're trying to steal Karkat from him, which isn't true. It is true that you have and pretty much always had feelings for Karkat, which Karkat is aware of too, but your feelings for him are a reddish, palish mush, and you couldn't get into anything with him without cheating on Aradia, which you won't do. Karkat doesn't do quadrants anyway, so you're shit out of luck there, even if Aradia wasn't in the picture, which she is. So, even in the most hypothetical situation, you still wouldn't break up Gamzee and Karkat, because he's a grown-ass adult who can make his own decisions, and even though for some mind-boggling reason he decided to be with Gamzee, you still respect that choice. You don't like it, but you're not someone who gets a vote. You don't tell Karkat to break up with Gamzee, because that's stepping over the line, and it's disrespectful to who he is. At the same time, he knows your feelings and thoughts on the matter of him and on Gamzee and on the two of them together. Gamzee can't tell him to stop being around you, because actively trying to control Karkat is both not something Karkat would be happy about, but would also probably make Karkat wake up and realize that he can do better, which leaves you and Gamzee at a stalemate of mutual platonic hatred, but also both stuck around each other because of Karkat. He is going to hate you dancing with Karkat, but you don't care. You let Karkat drag you to the dance floor and proceed to genuinely have a good time. People take pictures, which you're happy to be in, but again, you don't need to take your own photos. They'll be up on social media before you know it, and you get to just exist and enjoy yourself without worrying about framing or how stuff looks. You eat wedding cake, actually managing to get a little of several different flavors. You get coffee cake, lemon cake, and something that is so chocolatey that just thinking about it is enough to make your teeth ache. It's late in the evening when you eventually leave, giving Hal a fist bump of goodbye and grinning at the thought of all he owes you now. You stroll through the park happily, and when you're waiting for the train to come, you finally take your palm husk out and check it. You've got a bunch of new tags and photos that have pinged into your inbox, and your work inbox sits there illuminated, but like hell are you opening that? You thumb out of your mail and open Trollian. You've heard the expression before of something feeling like the bottom of your digestion sac just dropped out, but you finally get what it means. Your insides feel like they do when you drop through the air without your psionics holding you. A cold sweat of fear breaks out at the back of your neck, and for several seconds you can't even breathe. The message you sent to Aradia never sent. It sat there with a little error sign by it. She never got it. In a panic, you scramble and dial her number, needing voice instead of text for this. The train pulls up, and on autopilot you step inside. Aradia's number goes straight to voicemail. It doesn't ring at all. Aya, you need to call me back. I'm coming home. I can explain. It's not what you think. You say urgently and hang up, your hands still shaking. You never told her about the party, about the deal you struck with Hal. She doesn't know that it's not real. Sure, you think she knows you better than to think that you'd cheat on her, but a whole evening of people messaging and calling her about it would be enough to make anyone doubt you. It feels forever until you get to your stop, and you restrain yourself from trolling her. If her number is going right to voicemail, then she's likely not looking at her palm husk at all. Besides which, at this point you need to see her. She needs to see the sincerity in your face and hear it in your voice, that you didn't mean this how it must look. You sprint from the train to your hive cluster and impatiently ride the elevator up to your floor. In a rush, you scramble to your door and stumble inside. Your hive isn't big. It's bigger than a single unit because it's two of you living there, but you've just got the main area, your small respite block, ablution block, and small office space. You step through the door, and it's no more than 2 wide paces to get to Aradia on the lounge plank. Not that you take those steps. Instead, you stand there staring at her from the doorway as she stares back at you from the lounge plank. It wasn't... I sent you a message about it, but it never got through. Hal needed a date. Said he wanted me to pretend it was red. He gave me IOUs. It was just a dumb thing. It wasn't real. I meant to tell you sooner, but I kept forgetting and we kept missing each other, and I thought you knew. It wasn't real, you say in a rush, stumbling and tripping over your words. Aradia looks up at you with wide, rust-colored eyes, the two of you on each side of the main area of your block. You're breathing hard from running here, and she's totally still. Oh, Aradia says quietly. I'd never cheat on you, you insist, and step into the room. That makes a lot more sense. I thought that was it, and you'd just broken up with me, Aradia says with quiet relief in her tone. You're not looking at her, though. You're looking at the TV. It's on. It's showing some TV show that she's been into lately, some docuseries about archaeology that wasn't interesting to you. There's that on the TV, and she's got the remains of a stir-fry from one of the places across the way. This isn't emotional food. If she did that, it'd be a huge bowl of ramen with everything in it and a pint of ice cream. She'd be watching Indiana Jones for the millionth time. This is a normal evening. She's not mad at you. She's not anything. Aradia's fine. Wait, did you know? You ask slowly, looking up at her again. No, I thought that... It's fine. It doesn't matter now. It makes far more sense that you were doing something for a friend. Aradia nods and gets up to grab her food. She pauses and offers some to you. As she stands, you see that she had her tablet with work on it. It's still lit up. I don't want noodles. Hold on. You didn't know that this was a favor I was doing for Hal. You thought, what, that you'd found out I was cheating or that I'd broken up with you without a word because all of our friends were asking you about our breakup and you're fine? You're just... All this is normal, you say in disbelief, waving to the room around you. If you had broken up with me, there wasn't really anything I could do about it. But you didn't, so it's fine, Aradia says and shrugs a little. Wait. No, you need to tell me what you thought, because I'm at a loss here. I know I handled this like shit and fucked up completely, and I'm sorry about that, but what the hell? You demand. Aradia frowns and puts her food on the side. It's just a dumb misunderstanding, Alex. You worry too much, Aradia says softly. You worry too much? She's not worried enough. You stare at her, try to find the words, and then start over. Did you think I was cheating on you? You ask, clear and careful. No, you wouldn't do that. I thought we were over, she admits, and then turns to put her food in the fridge. I'm sorry, we've been together since we were 13. We lived together and have for years, and you thought... You start. You can hear your voice getting a little louder now. It's not like I've seen you much lately. It's not like you had a chance to tell me this. I don't know, I felt like it made sense, like we drifted apart. Aradia's voice goes soft at the end as she looks back at you finally. And you gesture to the normal evening inn that's all around you. You just thought that was fine and went on as normal, totally fine? But it was just a misunderstanding, and I'm relieved. It's just a dumb mistake, really, Aradia insists. You stare at her as she looks back at you. You fucked up, yes, but this is so much worse. You were fine without me. You said it made sense, you say softly. I didn't mean it how it sounds, she tells you. Her voice is gentle and sympathetic. Nothing really bothers Aradia. That's one of the reasons why you like her so much. She's got a resilience and a big picture view that you wish you had. You think sponge chemistry hates you sometimes, and having Aradia as this guide for how to pass through the universe unscathed was always great. But apparently your relationship isn't a big picture detail. She thought you were over, and she got on with her work and had dinner and watched TV as usual. You didn't even break her stride. Explain it to me then, you breathe. Your hands are shaking at your sides. If you had broken up with me, there wasn't anything I could do about it. What did you want me to do? Aradia says back, a little defensively now. I want you to act like you care more about the idea that you lost me. I'm your mate spread. I'm not keys that you misplaced, and there's no point getting upset about losing them because they'll either turn up or they won't. This is me. This is us, you insist loudly. But I haven't lost you. It was just a misunderstanding, she says soothingly, like you're making a big deal out of nothing. You're not, though. She's making nothing out of what should be a big deal. It's not a misunderstanding. Not now. It's over for me now. I don't know when it was for you, but maybe you can let me know at some point, because clearly you don't actually care. You tell her. Aradia looks concerned for you. Not hurt, not heartbroken, just mild concern for your well-being. You can't do this. You can't. You can't get all the words out, so you just step into your respite block. Bedside table. Meds, lanyard, charger. Solix, Aradia says gently. You don't remember what you say back. You know it was something, but you're out of the door and on a train again before you can really think straight. The way to Karkat's place is ingrained into you. A million visits has left you with a homing trail there that nothing can erase. You bang your fist on the door hard until someone answers, but when the door slides open, it's Gamzee standing there. He looks down at you from above and tilts his head curiously at you. God knows how you must look right now, but you don't care. Yeah, it's late, he says. Karkat, I need... Your voice wobbles dangerously. Gamzee narrows his eyes like he's trying to work out the balance of this situation, but you're not playing this game right now. Karkat! You shout, and with the door open, there's no way he doesn't hear. Gamzee hisses at you quietly, but behind him you see Karkat in his boxers and one of Gamzee's giant shirts lean around the corner. He's got his toothbrush in his mouth and is looking at you with surprise. Hello? So Karkat says around his toothbrush. Me and Aradia broke up, you say quietly, and God, the words hurt to get out, like you're vomiting barbed wire with every syllable. You've been saying that all night, Gamzee points out. Karkat audibly swallows a mouthful of toothpaste foam as he stares at you. No, You're serious, aren't you? Karkat says. You make a slightly shaking noise of agreement, not trusting your words, because you can feel the threatening prickle of tears in your eyes, and you don't know if you'll get through anything you try to say. Karkat curses and hurries to pull you inside. Hey, Gamzee protests. Get out of the way of the door, you're letting the heat out like that. Come on, Solix. Karkat insists and drags you to the lounge plank. You hear the door shut behind you, and Karkat tosses his toothbrush onto the table before shoving you into the lounge plank with his free hand. What happened? You're actually serious this time. This is what I meant by you weren't acting like you were broken up before, but now you are. Are you... Was this a mental breakdown thing, or... Karkat asks. Or where Gamzee starts. Gamzee? Karkat cuts him off before he gets anywhere. Karkat's face is steely. He's accepting no argument at all, and the fact that Gamzee has several feet of height on him as well as who knows how much muscle doesn't seem to matter. Gamzee slinks out of the room so quiet you wouldn't have known if you hadn't seen him leave. You don't much appreciate the reminder of how stealthy Gamzee can be. Hal wanted a date, didn't want to be friends, just didn't want his siblings to think he was single. I said no one would buy it, but you gesture helplessly. I didn't get to tell AA I missed her and forgot about it, and then I left her a message on Trollian, but the train, and she didn't get it, but... You go on, picking up speed. Whoa, slower. So, did you tell her this was all for show or not? Karkat stops you, his hands on your shoulders. I sent her a message on the way there, on Trollian. She didn't get it. I must have sent it a blank patch of signal on the train, the one people keep bitching about that maintenance never seems to fix. I should have known better. I should have checked, but I didn't, and then I just didn't look again until I was nearly home, and she thought that we were over and that I was dating Hal. You tell him. Shit. Fuck, that's... What did she say? Karkat asks, his face a picture of horror. Nothing. She was fine with it. She thought that I ditched her for Hal and I was legitimately red for him and we were over, but I just not bothered to tell her. She went on with her evening like nothing was wrong. Like it was... Tell me I'm not overreacting here, you demand. Karkat stares at you with his mouth slightly open. His eyes are wide, and he seems to form the shape of a few words without managing to actually vocalize anything. It takes him several tries to manage to speak. she acted completely normal, and it wasn't just some front she was putting up to pretend that she wasn't hurt by the whole situation? He asks you. No, it was like she misplaced her keys and then found them again. I've seen her more concerned about misplacing her palm husk than she was about me apparently dating someone else. You tell him, and your breath hitches a little there, like you might just cry, but it's all too much right now for you to let that out. Karkat lets out a long breath and leans back on his arm of the lounge plank. His eyes are wide with horror, and he shakes his head disbelievingly. That's fucked up. You're not overreacting at all. That's heartbreaking, Karkat says, and at his words, tears start to spill down your face for the first time. You're not overreacting. You're not taking this the wrong way, and it's not all in your head. Choking back a sob, you unlock your palm husk, and then, after a brief look, you toss it at Karkat. She's not even called or messaged me. She doesn't care, you say, your voice muffled through your jacket sleeves as you scrub at your eyes. That's awful, Solix. I'm so sorry. When did this even happen? You never said you two were having problems, and things always seemed fine with you two. I mean, you've been together longer than anyone I know, Karkat says. Almost 10 years, you mumble. The lounge plank creaks a little as Karkat shifts and pulls you into a hug. You squeeze him tight, your face buried in his shoulder. You never thought this was going to happen, that you'd be coming to him because you and Aradia were over. You'd thought the two of you were a forever thing. You pull back after a moment or two and sniff a bit. This always happens when you cry. Your sinuses decide to just say, fuck you, and they're gonna get in on the whole crying thing as well. You just never thought you'd be crying over Aradia like this. I don't know when it happened, you admit quietly. What's it been like lately? Karkat presses you. It's been fine. I mean, there's always shift problems, but everyone has that. But we've not been avoiding each other or anything. She's not been spending more time with the rest of her work people than normal. It's just been fine. Which means that it's been like this for ages and I was too stupid to notice, you say bitterly. You're not stupid, Karkat tells you softly as he slides his arm around you. Karkat has, on many occasions, called you stupid, but he doesn't really mean it. Not like this. Hell, you've called him worse. You're both assholes, but never where it actually matters. Are you two completely over, or do you want to try to salvage this? Karkat asks, but his tone suggests that you're past the point of trying, and you agree. Can't come back from this. Can I stay here? You ask quietly. Of course. Have you got your medication and everything else? Karkat asks, and so you hold out the things that you grabbed on your way out. Well, a toothbrush or clean clothes might have been an idea, but that's fine. I can pull some strings tomorrow to try to get you a new hive allocation, but it might take a bit even with that. We can get some more of your stuff when Aradia's working. It's not like I can't go and check her schedule on the system. That's not why I've got that power, but I'll take it, Karkat says with a nod. The idea of having a plan energizes him somewhat. He gets to his feet and then turns around to face you. First things first, I'll grab you some clothes to sleep in, then you can go shower. You'll feel better after that. You can change and I'll get the lounge plank set up for you, okay? Karkat asks. You don't have any other plans, so you nod and Karkat marches off to his respite block. His place, at least, is a little bigger than yours, than the place that you had been sharing with Aradia was. Aradia wasn't assigned to be an archaeologist/geologist with the sailors when the two of you got your place. She was just a student and you worked in IT, but Gamzee's job is all important, so he and Karkat get a bigger place than yours to reflect that. Speaking of, you see Gamzee's figure fade into your peripheral vision as he slinks out of his and Karkat's respite block. He saunters over to you and rests his long forearms on the back of the lounge plank. He scratches at his chin absently for a moment. You know, I heard this wild philosophy at one point, right? The idea that what you put out into the wide old universe, you get back, he says lazily. I'm not in the mood for your kumbaya hoofby shit, you hiss at him. Nah, man, like, you go around saying something is, so it ends up that way. But I guess you know that, Gamzee says. The dark look in Gamzee's eyes and the real meaning in his words set your blood on fire. You told people you and Aradia weren't together anymore, and now you're not. Like, this is your fault. What are you two talking about? Karkat asks suspiciously, coming back into the room with clothes in his arms. The power of positive thinking, bro. Telling me he just has to speak it, and it'll be. Gamzee smiles at Karkat. That's nice, Gamzee, but this is a little beyond that. Solix, come on. Karkat jerks his head, and you follow. It's not like you want to be near Gamzee. Karkat follows you into the small ablution block and sets the clothes he's loaning you onto the counter. He stops and looks up at you with pity and determination set into his whole being. Listen, I know this must be indescribably awful, but you're going to get through this. I'll help however I can, alright? For now, just get washed up and I'll have the lounge plank ready for you to sleep on. He tells you and nudges you towards the shower. You're too broken to resist, so you just do as he says, stripping out of your formal wear as soon as you hear the door shut. Your shower is particularly joyless, and you spend several long minutes with your head pressed to the metal wall of the shower, with water dripping from your horns as you contemplate how your life so suddenly went wrong. Maybe you should overlook this. Aradia's always been very go with the flow. It doesn't mean she doesn't care in her own way. You could go back there, tell her you just needed to cool off and put your relationship back together. You press your fingers against your shut eyes and groan into your hands in dismay. You can't go back. Even if you did so, you still know now that you weren't fully wanted or needed. It's not that you want Aradia to hurt, but you leaving so little impact on her is just not something you can get over. It can't be that big of an ask to mean something to someone who's pitied you and been in a relationship with you for almost 10 years, right? You can't unopen that box. You can't unknow this now that you've experienced it. You'd always know if you went back. Every time she spoke to you when you were upset, that things could be over and she wouldn't even miss a step. No one would call you a font of self-esteem, but even you think you deserve more than that. Karkat knocks on the door, and you realize you've been standing in the shower for far too long. You shut off the water, dry yourself off, and then, for lack of any other option, you put toothpaste on your finger and rub at your teeth for a bit. You take your medication and swallow it down with mint-tinted water. Karkat's sleep clothes are far too short on you, the cuffs ending in your mid-shins and the waistband clinging weirdly low to your hips. It's still more comfortable than your suit, though, so even though you're wearing cropped everything, you choose that over the suit. I've got work in the morning anyway, and I'll work on finding you somewhere new to live as soon as absolutely possible. I'll rush things as much as I can. I know ship housing can be tight, but I'll get you something, I promise. Karkat vows and drapes a fuzzy blanket over you. Thanks, KK, you whisper into the cushions of the lounge plank. I'm really sorry, Solix. You didn't deserve this, he assures you and strokes a hand through your hair. What are you supposed to do now? The vast unknowableness of your future, devoid of the rock-solid certainty of Aradia, is deep and terrifying. So, you do all you can in the moment and fall into uneasy sleep.